Yes.
There we
Hello. Good
go.
evening, everyone, or good morning, whatever time zone you're in currently.
There we go. So who we have with us is, as I move over to this monitor, as I become very tiny in the corner, Arthur. Look, this over here. This is Arthur. Hello, Arthur. How are you doing?
Doing well. Doing well. How are
Awesome.
you?
I'm doing great. I'm doing great. I'm so excited for today. Because I don't
I
get to,
am too.
I don't
Stage
have to
fright.
talk. I know I don't have to talk at all. Oh, stage fright. Don't even worry about it. Once you get into the swing of things, you will be fine. Um, So real quick, let me say hello to people who we have in chat. I should do that. We got Sparky, we got Zero Frost, we got I Got This, we got Wizard Brandon, we got you, Arthur, we have Cruiser, we have Angelique Jensen, we have Nalith, we have a bunch of people here. Hello, everyone. How is everyone doing? Um, I feel like I've asked that too many times already, so I'm going to shut up and move on. So, today, we are going to have, I guess, a bit of a masterclass, right? Just a little introduction,
Mm,
a little bit of a
sort of. Sort of.
rundown on making chiptune music. And in this situation, we'll all be able to follow along on our browsers because Arthur uses a browser-based tracker called BeepBox, right?
Yes, I'll post a link in chat if I assume I have permission for that.
Yeah, you
There
do.
we go.
There
There
we
we go.
go. Let me actually give you the last ancient, a little bit of VIP access. Now you are completely
Nice.
protected. Perfect. You are a special one. Yeah. So I guess we can start just by, introducing you to people who might not be super familiar. I mean, I feel like right now most people here know who you are, but like for let's say the people on YouTube who I'm going to be uploading this stream for, can you give people maybe not your elevator pitch, but just like a short introduction to who you are, the kind of music you make, how long you've been making music, all that fun stuff?
Yeah, sure. So my name is ArthurTheLastAncient. Obviously not my real last name, but it is my actual first name. Just for I suck at names, so if I think up of something, then I forget like 10 minutes later because I have a goldfish memory. I deal with autism, but that's all on the side. I make chiptune music primarily, or other electronic music. Sometimes also branch out to orchestral stuff. Um, and I think I'm pretty good. People mention me in the same breath as Koji Kondo sometimes, which makes me feel incredibly honored. But yeah, I just love the retro sounds, the old NES and the Commodore 64, and even the Super Nintendo, stuff like that. So I tend to express my musical prowess in that kind of sound.
Nice.
I've been making music for, I don't know, about 20 years now. So
Probably longer than
that's
some of the
quite some
people have been
time.
alive.
I'm 37 at the moment, so I've been in the composing business for quite some time, which started off with copying my favorite tunes from one of the first things I recreated, quote unquote, is Storm Eagle stage background music from Mega Man X of the
Nice.
Super Nintendo. And I taught myself how to play that on my small Yamaha PSR 50 keyboard, which is a half key, half width kind of thing. And I had that thing until, I don't know, about 4 years ago when I left home.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, I'm kind of sad that I had to leave it behind because it held a lot of memories.
Yeah,
but
nostalgia and stuff like that. I get that for sure. I mean, that's awesome. So were you using trackers the whole time? Because from what I understand, you switched to using like Ableton not even full time, but just like as a supplemental thing, like in the past year, right?
Yes, that's true. I started out using a free tool called ModPlug Tracker, which was an upgrade from the basic Windows things that I used. I mean, I made a lot of things using Windows Recorder and even my old tape deck by just recording something and then recording something over it and then re-recording something over it. And that's how I started out. And then the whole computer thing started bumping up, and Mod Block Tracker became a thing, which allowed me to use the general MIDI library that Windows comes equipped with, which was a huge upgrade over the limited tape things that I had. Made music for quite some time over that, and later on, I believe it was around the end of the 90s, early 2000s, I purchased my first DAW, which was Orion 7 by Synapse Audio, and Music Maker version 13 back then.
Nice.
And I still use those two to this day, although Music Maker has been upgraded to 17 by now. They have newer versions, but I don't like the way they work. And yes, actually, end of last year, I got my hands on Ableton 10 Live, and I'm starting to get more comfortable around that.
Nice.
And about a year prior, I discovered BeepBox, which is my go-to DAW now. At the moment, it's browser-based. Links in chat, I'll post it again. If you want to get into making chiptunes, this is a great tool to get started. The entire album that I released in December is made with this tool, with the exception of one track. So it's perfectly capable of doing what you need it to do, especially for the little beeps that I make. Yeah.
Awesome. So why don't we actually switch over to your desktop, and then we can kind of start taking a look at BeepBox. I know you said you had kind of a basic lesson plan, so I don't want to interfere too much. But I figure if we could start with just like a very simple overview of like BeepBox and what we're basically going to be covering today, that would be a great way to start. And then I'll just, I'll shut up and let you do your own business.
All right. Well, first a quick rundown of BeepBox. You won't get the same screen I get whenever I open a new BeepBox. That's because I have a pre-made link over here. I called it Modbox Blank, simply because it zeroes out all the patterns for me over the course of the entire track. Whereas when you basically start, it gives you a whole bunch of ones, and that means it's going to repeat all the patterns. So you can basically see this as a tracker split in two parts. You got your top half over here with the little piano roll. If you can't see the piano roll, go over here to your preference menu and say show piano. I also like highlight fifths. And I also like the octave scroll bar because it allows you here to fine tune your instruments a little more. So if we open up a pattern, there you go. This is what you usually start out with. Whoops, kiss my mic. So yeah, you got your basic MIDI based kind of thing. You can draw notes by clicking and make all kinds of things. You can actually hear what you do on the fly if you press the play button, if it wants to. Oh, there we go. You got your little loop bar over here. This is your arrangement section, as I like to call it. Vertically, we have all the channels, and horizontally, you got all the different patterns. You can make as many patterns as you want with the custom song size button here. You can adjust the metering, the number of beats per bar, the number of bars per song. That's the total length you can see in the bottom. It's this very bottom scroll bar over here. Patterns per channel is how many patterns you can have in every different section. I usually set it to something like 32. So you can have 32 different patterns of little sections you see in the top section over here. I'm pointing at things, but you guys can't see that.
The mouse is a good enough pointer.
Yeah, I forget sometimes. Yeah, so you can have 32 of these per instrument, just per channel. We have, I think I have 14 channels here. Well, it actually says over here. Yeah, 10 pitch channels, 4 drum channels. That's the maximum number of drum channels you can have. Pitch channels will basically means any waveform except noise, because that's what your drum channels are for.
What's the maximum number of pitch channels? Is it 10 as well?
No, it can go up to 12.
12. Okay, so 16 maximum channels. Nice.
16 maximum channels, which brings me to the first topic. What is exactly a chiptune? The term chiptune actually comes from way back in the days. I'm talking late 70s, early 80s, when computers started to be a thing and they started incorporating sounds into them. Um, they started using specialized chips to make a computer have sound, and those sound chips often had a limited number of voices. The most famous one is probably the chip used in the Commodore 64, which is the famous SID chip. Had three voice polyphony, fully programmable, and people made amazing music on that. And later on, when better sound chips came out, um, think Sound Blaster, think Game Blaster, think the Gravis Ultrasound, those kind of things. Um, People started referring to the old school or old style computer music as chip tune music, because it wasn't samples that were being reproduced. It was actually the chip directly controlling the signal to the speaker. And that's where the term chip tune music actually comes from. It's literally the chip creating the sound wave that's being sent to the audio device. Could be a speaker, could be headphones, could be a line out, could be anything really.
And correct me if
Um,
I'm wrong. Sorry to interrupt real quick, but correct me if I'm wrong. There were like pretty much just like two or three waveforms, right? There was a pulse wave, there was a triangle wave, and there was a like a noise generator, right?
yes and no. The SID chip from the Commodore was actually fully programmable, and you could basically change it with every clock cycle.
Oh,
So
cool.
it had three voice polyphony, but you could have three noise channels if you wanted to, or three triangle
Oh,
channels, or three saw channels.
oh, interesting. That's cool. I didn't know
So
that.
the SID chip was very advanced. Um, Usually, when people talk about chip tunes, people start with the NES, the
Hmm.
Nintendo Entertainment System, or the Famicom in Japan, which had a sound chip that was capable of five channels. Even though people always say four, there were actually five. That is, it had two square waves or pulse wave generators. It
Hmm.
had a triangle wave specifically. It had a noise wave generator. And the fifth one was a PCM 8-bit sampler.
Right. Yes, I remember reading about that, and that's how they got like the really degraded voice samples and stuff.
Yes.
Yeah.
And we actually, Musa and I had a little chat before we started this. And I said, pick any NES tune, and we're going to try and recreate that in order to get things started. And he picked Contra, which is actually a very big cheater because Contra uses the fifth PCM channel, which we're not going to be able to reproduce in
Oh,
BeepBox.
interesting.
But that's
Okay.
fine. We can work around that, and that's going to be fun. Yes, classic Contra from the NES. Also in Europe, it's known as Probotector.
Ooh, that's
So
what.
that's a fun thing.
Yeah, TIL.
The more you know. So yeah, that basically is what chiptune means. The basic waveforms generated by a sound chip in a computer or in a system that are literally being sent out to something else. And 9 out of 10 times that does not include samples. Even though the NES had a pulse width modulation channel, it was rarely used. And even when there was a voice emulation, like Pinbot, for example, became very famous on the NES because it had spoken lines, but all those lines were generated with the normal four channels instead of using the PWM channel
Oh, cool, cool.
because samples take up space. And space was a commodity you often didn't have on NES cartridges.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, that's hey Upload, welcome in. How are you doing? Trying to keep my eye on chat. It's going to be
Oh, don't worry. I will.
nice.
I can monitor chat. So you focus on the teaching. I'll pop in if there's any questions or any comments.
Cool, cool. 8-bit sampler feel like, yeah. 8-bit trap beats, yeah, go
Oh
for it.
yeah.
So yeah, that's what a chip tune is. and I actually have Contra open right here, and I've slowed it down to half speed because this track, I picked just the intro states because it's the most famous one, jungle
Yeah.
music, and it is mad. It's really mad. It's got a very sick bass line. It's only 4 channels plus the PWM drum samples, and you can hear them if you listen closely. Now this is half speed. I don't care. We're probably gonna have like uh, a little copyright thing because I won't be able to
Oh,
mute this.
it's fine. I'll just talk over it.
Yeah, we'll just keep talking over it. So everyone
Yeah,
knows
that
this track.
snare.
You can hear the snare. The hi-hats are actually made by the noise channel, but the bass line, this is half speed and it goes already do, 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 do.
Right?
So
It has
this is
a
nuts.
it's up tempo at half speed, which is, I mean, well, that's something that I think is characteristic of a lot of at least older chiptune tracks. Like, in order to save on space, they made the songs super fast, just so that like you would get through the MIDI file faster.
Yeah, that was actually a common practice, and nowadays we call that a trill or arpeggio. BeepBox can actually do that. Let me adjust the loop here for a second. You can just drag this with your mouse and extend the loop. So now we're just looping this one pattern here. Let's up the tempo a little bit, and you can tell over here in the advanced instrument settings, it says chord arpeggio. And that basically means if you have multiple notes, then it'll start alternating between them. So if we have like a standard C and we place a G above that,
Oh, clever.
and this was a technique that was also already used on the Commodore to have a single channel produce notes in such quick succession, such a fast arpeggio that it creates the illusion of having more than just 3 voices. I usually don't go above 2 though, especially when using the arpeggio setting. You can also set it to duet, in which case,
It'll actually play polyphony. Nice.
yeah, you get 2 voice polyphony per channel, and I actually abuse that a lot because you can make some really crazy chords with that, which I won't be really able to show off because I believe the audio we do is actually mono.
Yes, I believe it's monophonic. Just
Oh, well, we can
yeah,
check this by just throwing the panning to all the way to the left.
yeah. That's centered. That's centered.
Yeah, okay. Then I won't be able to show it off that much, but what I usually a fun trick I like to do is having 2 of these channels set up both in duet. Let's see if they're on the same thing. Then I pan one hard left, pan the other one hard right, and build the entire chord over here. So if you would build a major C, you would have C, E, G, and a high C.
Oh, and then it plays. Oh, that's really clever.
That way, because chiptunes originally were monophonic, because you only had 3 voices, which you could either throw to the left or throw to the right. But yeah, the Commodore only played music through its RF modulator. So you would have a TV. Most TVs were mono at the time. The NES didn't even have stereo; it just had one audio output. Um, at least here in Europe.
Hmm.
I'm not sure how that was in the US or in Japan, but I believe even there it was a single mono because TVs didn't have stereo at the
Yeah, there
time.
wasn't more than one
It was very
speaker.
uncommon.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there wasn't really any stereo in those chip tunes. That was something from the Super Nintendo days and the Super Famicom and the Sega Mega Drive and even the Mega Drive or the Genesis in the US did that very clever by just alternating instruments over left channel or right channel. Like
Hmm.
Sonic the Hedgehog is a very famous one because if you connected the headphones port to the Genesis console and you would pick up rings, it would alternate the ring sounds between the left and right ear,
Oh, I
which is
didn't.
a fun little thing to
Yeah, I
know.
never knew that. That's really cool.
Stereo separation and what we call it, phase cancellation.
True. Um, alrighty.
So yeah, that's a basic thing. Um, how people try to overcome the limitations of just having three or four voice polyphony with chip tunes, and obviously BeepBox has a lot less to deal with in terms of that limitation, because we got 16 channels, of which are four noise channels, as where the which is literally four times more than the old NES had, um, even five.
So do you ever find yourself like either trying to abuse like the fact that you can go over that limitation, or on the inverse, actually trying to constrict what you have to like only use a couple of channels? Also, thank you for that host, Flaro. I really appreciate it.
Two ways actually. Because we have so many more voices to work with here, I can create a lot more complex melodies, complex chords, and I won't have to worry as much about running out of number of voices to use. I
Hmm.
mean, I could basically turn all the voice channels that we have, which is 12, into duet polyphony, and then would have 24 different notes that I could play at the same time, which
Yeah.
would be a cacophony. Um, but yeah, sometimes I abuse it, sometimes I don't.
Depends
Literally
on the
depends
project,
on
basically.
yeah, it depends on the project. If you want really loud booming music, then yes, sometimes I fill up the entire thing. If I want more quiet music, then I end up removing empty channels because I simply have no use for them.
Makes sense. Makes
um,
sense. So why don't we move on to like kind of the introduction to how to really use this, and like get people started with maybe starting to make their own kind of chiptune stuff.
all right. Well, we'll take Contra for example. I mean, that was the thing. I'm just gonna go along, play a little bit, and try and recreate that in Beatbox, and try and explain what I'm doing. And um, yeah, we'll see from there. So the goal is, let's try and recreate this Contra jungle theme as close as we can get it. And the way I usually do that is I do everything by ear. I don't have any MIDI files on hand or whatever. So the first thing we need to figure out is the tempo. This is at half speed. I like it at half speed because otherwise I won't be able to discern all the different voices. This thing is a doozy. I swear to God. Um, boop, 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 boop. So I'll just throw in a bunch of half notes and see if we can figure out tempo. That's too fast. That sounds better. Do, 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 do.
There we go.
That's close enough. Let's center you again. Let's get you guys out of duet, because duet actually, um, there is always two waves playing at the same time, and when you duet, those two waves actually get split. So they actually sound slightly quieter. You gotta,
Bleep bloop.
if you want to use a duet in mix with the normal things, you have to take account for that. And it's just if you make a habit of ticking down the volume one notch and kick it up when you do use duet, you won't have that problem. We're not going to use a duet setting for this track though, because it's only three voices and a noise channel we have to worry about. We're probably going to use a little bit more, because the NES could switch from square wave to pulse wave um, rather freely along
Hmm.
the song, and we can only do that per pattern. So we're going to have to use multiple voices in order to compensate.
Oh, for sure. Also,
Um,
real quick, thank you to Pursuit for that 4-month resub. I really appreciate it. Thank you to Mrs. Ancient for that follow, and thank you to Elusive Climber for that follow.
Hello, hello.
Sorry about that. Keep going. Sorry.
That's the bass line we have. So let's see if we can recreate that. That's an F, and we already know that that's the triangle channel. So let's turn this over here. The waveform, you can switch triangle. Needs to be shorter. And that's basically the baseline. And keep in mind, we're working at 151 BPM. So the real thing actually
Probably
is
like
at 300.
Yeah.
Let's see if we can find that. One tick lower, 280,
Close enough.
302. That's what the baseline is doing.
That's so groovy. I love it.
And then we've got probably white pulses.
I'm just doing a simple harmony, essentially.
Doom, 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 doom. Mm-hmm. C. Am I doing that right? Nope.
It's a little bit more syncopated.
Let's throw you back to 151 so I can actually see what I'm doing. Dun, dun, dun. Mm-hmm. That sounds better. That's probably going to be an E flat. Gotta extend this. And then we got the second voice, which is also a wide pulse wave. That's too low. You can use the bracket buttons next to the P on your keyboard to switch between patterns.
Oh, that's really useful. So, like,
Yeah, you use the arrow keys to move your cursor around and select patterns. You can also do that with your mouse.
Yeah, I was about
but
to
you won't
say.
be able to move the progress bar. You have to use the brackets for that.
Okay, so there's a fair bit of like actual hotkey-esque stuff. A lot of stuff that doesn't require you to do mouse movements, which I think is good for working fast.
Yes, like the entire arrangement section is basically mouse based, and but you can do all the things you can use your mouse for. Like you can directly key in the pattern numbers instead of using the little up and down arrows here.
Oh, so you can just press 1 or 2 on your keyboard and it'll.
Yeah, you can just go 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. That's usually how I set up a bar, especially when doing challenges. I set up all the bars or all the patterns that I'm going to use, and then write the melody as the thing is playing. So we'll get to that. If we we'll probably have more than enough time to actually do a live challenge, so you guys can literally see how I tackle a challenge in this thing. That's going to be fun. I'm excited for that. But first, Contra and the little basics of BeepBox. So we basically just got the first section down, and I'm actually not too happy about the bass things. So what we're going to do is do a little trick, because these notes feel too short, even though they're already at quarter speed. You can make them longer, but that will make them too elongated. So what you can do is over here at the rhythm where it says division 4 standard, you can actually put that to 8. That doesn't change anything, except it changes the resolution in which you can extend your notes. So instead of just full thirds or full quarter or full half note, you can actually go to a quarter and a dot.
Oh, so it's kind of like just shrinking it by one increment rather than like elongate or legato the note to kind of connect them all
Yes,
together. Okay.
exactly. And then there is another thing you can do, but I'm not sure if I can accurately. I'll demonstrate that later because you got this whole section down here, like the transit note transitions is also very important. I can demonstrate that later.
Mm-hmm.
Let's check out the bass line now. That's a lot better.
Yeah.
And I did hear the bass making a slight variation. So what you can do is you highlight the pattern you want to use, press the C on your keyboard, go into a new pattern, and then press a V
Yeah.
without the control key. So it's the same keys as copy paste, except you
don't need to use
use
the
the control
modifier.
key.
Yeah.
Yeah. On Windows, on Mac, I believe it's the command key. So that's the little variation it does. It's literally just those few notes.
Okay.
This is the same, so we can just repeat this pattern. This is different. So we take a new pattern, we paste the old pattern, and then we can just what is that? A G? Nope, A flat. Let's actually pull this down one, make it a little bit more. Yeah, that's better. Is that a C? Is that a C? Yep, that's a C.
Are you able to stem out individual like tracks in BeepBox?
Yes, you can mute others.
Okay, so there's not like an export all individual. You would have to like set everything to 0 and then just
Yeah,
only
you can
export that
either,
one.
yeah, per instrument, you have this little button next to the volume.
Oh.
If you press that, it'll go gray, and that'll mute that specific instrument for that channel.
Oh, so that's
So if you
probably
use
better.
channels with multiple instrument settings, you have to do that for all of them.
Okay.
So
But
that's why I usually have all channels open and try to use a different channel for different instruments rather than reusing the same channel with a different instrument setting.
makes sense. It's easier to manage even though it is technically more stuff to keep track of.
Yes.
Makes sense. That makes sense. So you can, but it's a little bit you can stem things out, but it's a little bit more work, basically.
Yeah. It's
That's fine.
tricky, but it works, and I have done on multiple occasions. Like a good friend of mine called Guy Prime from the Retro Therapy likes to drum, and he does a lot of drum covers, especially for old chiptune music. And then what I do is I recreate the entire chiptune like we're doing right now, and then I'll just mute out the drums so he can do his own drum cover of it, and then layer it.
Oh, for sure, for sure. Nice.
Um, where was I? Right.
We're making the secondary melody.
That's a weird, very weird melody. Very weird. Is that a D flat? No, it's got to be a C. Oh, that's too high. Now you can see whenever you, it remembers the last note and length that you used, and it'll reuse that. So if we edit this one here,
Oh, then
and
it
then want to
means...
try and make a new note, you see how it takes on the shape of the last note we
Yeah,
used?
that's actually really useful. It kind of reminds
Yeah.
me. I will say the piano roll in BeepBox reminds me a lot of the piano roll from FL Studio. If you've ever seen that.
I've seen it. I've never used it. I've never liked. Back in the day, you either were a tracker user or you used Fruity Loops,
Mm-hmm.
and it's kind of like the whole PC Master Race, console Master Race thing.
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
I was a tracker user and proud of it. So I hated Fruity Loops with every portion of my body, and I
Sorry, FL
never
users.
touched it. It's a good doll. I've actually looked at it. It's a good
Yeah,
doll, and I had a very hard time deciding between Orion or FL Studio
for
when
sure.
I came to purchasing a thing. And I went for Orion because it had one thing, which is built-in synths, unique synths,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
I
yeah.
fell in love with the Toxic 3.
Nice. This post was brought to you by Ableton Gang. Ableton Gang represent. This post was brought to you by Ableton Gang. Ableton Gang. Ableton Gang. All right. Sorry.
Proud member. Proud member.
All right.
Let's unmute this one. This should be good now. No, 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 no. Hang on. So what you also can do is if you really want to quickly copy a shape, is just use the polyphony, because uh, uh, notes playing at the same time in a single pattern have to have the same shape. They have to have the same volume envelope. They have to have the same pitch bends. They have to have the same length. That's how the polyphony in this system works. If you want different things, you'll have to use different channels.
Oh, so that's
So
why. That's why. I'm sorry to interrupt, but that's just to help kind of clarify this. That's why when you hover over the note that you have on C right now, the little outline expands to it. But as soon as you go to any of the shorter notes, it instantly cuts to that length.
yeah, because this is the last length that we used, it remembers that. So if I go over here and paste one that's exactly a full bar, a full quarter note, and then I go over here, then I can paste a quarter note here.
Okay, but if you go
Here
over
it'll change
there,
to an eighth.
yeah.
Here it'll change to an eighth because there's not enough space. And if I go over here, it'll just take on the full length.
Oh, for
Because
sure.
these have to, if I make two, you can see they have 1 and 2. That's also significant, but I'll explain that later because we're not going to use that in this instance. But if I change one, the other one changes with it. And if I pitch bend one, then the other one changes with it. So
sure.
whenever you have multi-voice polyphony, all the notes that are in unison at that time are linked, which can be very useful, but can also be very annoying. Where's my chat? Oh, there's my chat. Here we go.
I'm not gonna. Sorry to interrupt. I'm not gonna read your username aloud, but thank you to the person who just followed.
I miss that. I'm so sad now.
It's
I'm a sad
okay.
boy.
It's okay. You don't need to know. You are better off not knowing who just followed. Sorry, keep going.
Very well, very well.
Real quick, actually, can you talk a little bit about the pitch bend? Because you pretty much just clicked a note and dragged it.
Yes, that's basically what you do. If you want to pitch bend, let me go into a new channel. There's 2 ways you can edit a note, which is basically you click on the end, hold it down, and drag it to extend or shorten it. If you want to pitch bend, you click in the middle and then go up and down. And you can lengthen it, shorten it, go the other way, go up, go down. That's how you make pitch bends. And if you want to automate...
Go ahead.
If you want to automate the volume, then you have to click outside the note and then start dragging up and down.
What? Dude, honestly, I wish modern DAWs did this specific thing. Because that's honestly incredibly intuitive.
Yeah, I really like this. It only has three settings, like off, low, medium, and full, but or high. But you can do so much with it, and that's why I usually run into troubles when I want to do multiple things, because of the way the transitions work.
Mhm.
Um, I can show that in one of my songs, which we're going to pick apart later.
Yeah, yeah. Sorry, I'm
So
totally
the
pulling
pitch
you
bend
off
UI
topic.
is red. Yeah, absolutely. That's totally fine. It's chaos in my head anyway. So let's see if we actually got the notes right. That sounds good.
Yeah. Oh,
Is that the right one?
it's a fair harmony, but
I think I got it.
no,
Nope, it
up
was
to
D.
the E.
E
E flat.
flat.
Yeah.
There we go. Now, and what they actually do is they do this. A little volume automation there.
Oh, just to give it a little bit of a pluck, essentially.
Yeah. So we can do that. And now if you see, it copies that volume envelope. You see that? If I go
Yeah.
to a new space, it remembers that too. It doesn't do that for the pitch, but it will do that for the
The
volume.
volume.
So
That's
instead of
great.
editing all these notes, you just hover it, double click it.
Oh, that's see. I need to use BeepBox more because I've always wanted to get into chiptune, and it's like I was intimidated because it looked like it was honestly fairly complex. But the more I look at this, the more it's honestly like super straightforward. Like it's just like
They nailed it with the user interface. So now you see that the last shape we edited is this one. So if I just want to double click this, you get this.
okay.
I
So
don't
you,
want that.
yeah.
So you just press the Z key. That's the undo button.
Okay.
So instead, I edit one, make it the right shape. Now it's remembering this shape. And now we can double click all the other notes again. This one I'm just going to edit because it's no big deal. And then because we edited that shape, we can double click it here. Which shape do we have memorized here? It's that one. So I'll edit this one real quick just by dragging it out one tick and then putting it back where it belongs, because now it's memorized this shape and I can use that
For the other one.
in these.
Nice.
And that's how I quickly copy volume automations across different patterns. Whenever I do a challenge, it's just, oh, I have this shape here. Let me really copy that really quick and then paste it everywhere. And now we got the basic beat down. So we can move on to the next section, which is the drums. So what we can hear is basically the hi-hat is following the bass line with some exceptions on the ends.
Yeah.
So we'll go over here. I basically have this weird thing in my head that everything has to have its own specific place in my arrangement. That's why I started with the bass line all the way down here. That's usually because I use the yellow and orange to augment the drums. If you have a kick drum in, let me actually demonstrate that over here. Let's put you back to 0. There we go. We'll go over here for a second because this requires some explanation. If you have a kick drum in pure chiptune, then it basically sounds like this.
Yeah, it's just super like low pitched sampled noise, right?
Yep.
Almost.
So if you have like a basic 4-beat kick, let me actually shorten them just a little bit. Make them all equal. This is how most people consider a chiptune bass drum.
Is this hardstyle? No.
Oh, just going slight trance. If you want to augment that a little bit, give the kick some body, take a pitch channel, set that to a sine wave, set your filter to sustain soft. You then go almost all the way down, like the second octave. Go over to your G, make that the length you desire. Usually I make it slightly shorter than my bass drum actually is. So in this case, I would pick 1/4 note. I'll make the envelope like nice triangle so it fades out. Let's make it one tick longer, because why not? And then just pitch bend it.
Oh, so you can get that. Okay.
So you can get that little oomph.
Click.
And then you do that. Like, see how it copies it retains the volume shape, but it won't retain the pitch bend shape.
Yeah.
So you'll have to pitch bend that for every note.
Okay. So
which is fine.
So you can't copy and paste this whole thing, essentially. You have to hand do it. But that's, I mean, yeah, that's not too bad. Like, because especially once you get used to it, I'm sure it goes really fast, right?
Plus, once you have one pattern, you can copy that pattern. Now, let's say if I want to make a variation that has this the little double tap at the end, then I can just press the C button, put a new pattern, press the V button. There we go. Done. There we have. Now we have the little extra thingy. We're not going to use that though. So normally when you have your bass drum, you have this. It's just a noise channel. Let's actually set the mix at type A. It'll make the drums channel slightly louder. Now we add the sine wave.
Honestly, it's almost like if you took out the noise kick, it might almost sound cleaner. That's
almost.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of weak, but that's a pretty decent kick drum.
It's a very good kick drum body, and sometimes I cheat by, you know how we did the challenges with the pictures and stuff, and I got these big orchestral things I submitted? Sometimes when I felt like the kick needed some work, all I did was just take a sample from BeepBox, which is literally just the sine wave going down, and I just layered that.
Oh,
that's
smart.
all I added to it, because it's the perfect body, and I just use the what's it called? Noise channel. There we go. Words. I can words. I just use the noise channel for the transition. We'll lower that slightly, or you can make it shorter.
Yeah, just kind of. There you go. Really short. Just feels like almost like the click at the start. That's pretty impressive, honestly.
Yeah. You can change the different noise waves. I like periodic. It's one of my favorites, or hollow.
Oh.
If you want to go for a little hardstyle style bass.
That actually sounds a bit acoustic because of the tone of the noise. It feels like that air that's happening when you hit a live kick drum. That's impressive. Like, I'm honestly like, I might do some challenges just in BeepBox now. You
should.
That's crazy.
For this one, we're going to use periodic, because the kick drum that we have used in Contra is actually PWM sample. So we're not going to use this particular kick drum though. We were focusing on the hi-hat. I'm going to use the white channel for that. And I'm just going to go the very almost top. Perfect. What I do want is this bass channel over here. So I can basically copy. I think that's it.
Yeah.
heard a variation which has the extra hi-hat here, so we can just alternate these over there.
Okay.
Then we have a snare drum. We're going to use the retro here. Let's lower that a little bit. A basic snare drum is usually around this area here. Very.
Yeah. And
So we need something with a little more psh.
I was about to say,
we can.
Couldn't you also layer in like basically a higher pitched sine wave thump for the tone of the snare?
Yep, you definitely
Just
can.
like you would with the kick. That's cool.
Let's go back here.
I don't think that's a shitty question, Bokan. Well, here's a quick question from chat. What value does this have over something like, let's say, the Super Audio Cart Contact Sampler Library in a more traditional DAW?
It's browser based. You don't need anything else except a basic browser, and it's all scripted. Basically runs on Java, which every computer laptop stuff has. Plus, everything you do is saved in the URL at the top. So literally, I could send this page with the built-in functionality of Chrome, send this to my phone, and continue editing in the train.
Really?
Because it works there too. And it just transfers the entire song.
That's actually really awesome. I didn't know it would actually work on mobile browsers too. There you go. That's actually, honestly, there you go, Bokanon. That is the number one reason, is like, it's because it's also like, it's super resource light. I don't have to worry about CPU issues. I don't have to worry about memory issues. Like, it's basically just ones and zeros in the purest sense of the word.
Yeah, I mean, let me drag in how I save my my compositions. It's literally this. It's a text file with all the URLs saved in there.
That's fucking
and
dope.
Ascending City is one of the challenges I did in stream. I just copy the entire URL, paste and go.
Paste and go. That's so cool.
Press play.
Oh, and that's like your kick drum thing right there.
Yep. If we go on auto follow track,
that is really impressive, honestly.
And then you can use a service like tinyURL to shorten your URL and then share it.
Now, with everything we got, I think we're starting to really see like the true potential of BeepBox. So can you talk a little bit about like some of the like more important features for it? Like, for example, all of the different parameters that we can see under instrument settings. Like type seems a little bit self-explanatory, same with wave. But in terms of transition and effect, I mean, filter and chorus, kind of self-explanatory. But I'm just like, could you just go over some of the different parameters on the right side of the UI, just so we can kind of just get a little bit of familiarity? Also, real quick, can you also answer just a simple yes or no, I guess? Can it export MIDI? And if it can, how?
It could, but the functionality broke with the latest update. So if you use the original BeepBox, which is beepbox.co, let me post that in chat real quick. It's a simplified version of this. Basically works exactly the same, except you're missing stereo separation and that kind of thing. That's why I use this one, because it has the stereo thing. I think stereo adds a lot. The original BeepBox does not have that, but the original BeepBox does allow you to export to MIDI. There is an export button right here. You can press that, and it does say export to MIDI file, which used to work. Unfortunately, it doesn't. And they haven't been able to figure out why.
Now, I have a quick question about that then, just as a way to maybe try and find a workaround. If you had a song you wrote in this version of BeepBox, could you
Yes.
potentially load it up in the older version that has working MIDI and export the MIDI there?
Yes and no.
Okay.
You can export to JSON, and the JSON is technically compatible with all versions across BeepBox. So you just export to a JSON file and then import the JSON file in a regular BeepBox and then use the MIDI export. But it might mess up some of the instruments because the modded BeepBox has a lot more instruments to choose from. And the original BeepBox kind of uses different ways to save the instrument type. So you'll have to redefine those in order to export the MIDI. If you stick to the basic square wave, then the MIDI export should be totally fine. So just set all your instruments to the standard square wave, where it says here square, triangle, set that all to square, and the MIDI export should work. Like we can actually try now if that works. No, I don't think it will.
But you can do that workaround we're talking about, export to JSON and then upload that. So that's still, like, I mean, it's not perfect obviously, but there you go, TV. If you're having any desires, I guess you could work with that.
Yeah, that's definitely a thing. Power of Java, yes. Java is pretty powerful, and this is entirely. You can even download. It's all open source, so you can download the entire code from GitHub. Make your own clone, make your own modifications to the code. There is, I believe, there's also plugins you can use to add it to your own website.
All right. Looks like BitGlitch is going to try and fix the MIDI export for us.
JavaScript, not Java. Yeah, it's basically all written in JavaScript.
Awesome. So again, could we just basically just kind of go over the 4 different settings menus just to kind of just introduce people to the ideas in case they're unfamiliar with it.
Yes. It's I'll just use the baseline as an explanation here. So we'll move over here and let that play. And I'm actually going to make these all full quarter notes now, because that makes the transition so much more clear. So right now we have the transition set to sudden, and you can hear the little clicks in between the notes. If you go transition set it to seamless, you get the legato effect. You can also set it to smooth, which gives it a little swoop at the beginning, like a little build-up, which is ideal if you want to use, say, a pan flute. We'll just up this a little bit and then go over to a plateau. And now it sounds like a flute.
Yeah, gives it that little attack time.
And then you have slide.
Okay.
Which is basically glide, but only for notes that are connected to each other. So these will glide, but
those two on the E.
These will not.
Okay.
Because they don't, they're not adjacent. Then you have trill, which gives it a little attack. A little stutter in the beginning. The same goes for click. Preferably, I don't use these. Blip is even worse.
Oh yeah, those would be good for like, kind of going back to the drum sound. Like if you had click on like that pitch down, it would probably make the kick drum a bit punchier, stuff like that. But I feel like for actually melody writing, that might be a bit too distracting.
Yep. And finally, one of my favorites is bow. If it can actually, yeah, okay, my background was changing, never mind. That gives it a little pitch shift in the very attack. I use that a lot.
Yeah.
Wee. Like when I sometimes I make 8-bit covers and then you have a human voice, which you need to translate into 8-bit sound,
Hmm.
and then using bow actually makes it sound really good.
Oh, I could imagine, because it adds kind of the natural contours of like human pitch inflection into a sound.
Yeah, there's very few humans, very few singers which can hit a note and hit the note exactly without having to adjust and like
Mm.
literally like even I go "Wah, wah,"
Yeah.
and there's not a lot of singers that can hit a note and smack dab at it. It's a um, very uncommon quality. Freddie Mercury, Michael Jackson were people who had it, and not all the time.
Hmm.
So yeah, that's transition. Filter is basically speaks for itself. You got a sustain, you got a decay, which makes it kind of like clicky or plucky. Fade does the opposite,
Where it fades
so it goes
in.
from yeah. You, there is a thing though because this is a beta technically, so sometimes when it fades in, the sound gets too sharp, the filter gets too high or too wide. I'm not sure how to express that,
Hmm.
and then you get this really sharp clicking noise in your headphones, and it just completely goes silent. Just
Okay.
refresh the page, you won't lose anything. Then you've got ring, which basically sounds like a ring modulator. Muffled, which is slightly different than a medium filter. Shift makes it very sharp. You can also have none filter. I like to use overtone because it makes it very loud.
Oh yeah. It's
So
increasing the harmonics on the sound and stuff like that.
yeah, so if you constantly use sustain sharp and you come to the point where you're like, damn, my melody is actually a little bit drowned out, but I'm out of volume, instead of a filter, set it from sustain sharp to overtone, and you got a little bit of extra volume to work
Oh,
with.
for sure, for sure.
It's a single 10K file, yeah. It's really cool. 10 kilobytes. That's all this is. Works like a charm. Of course, waveforms speaks for itself. This one, I have no idea how to pronounce that, but it's one of my favorite instruments. I use it a lot. It's very grungy. Chorus speaks for itself. Union is one voice.
And then it just goes through
Shimmer,
different algorithms of like chorus and detuning and stuff like
yeah.
that.
Honky tonk is nice. Personally, I use octaves a lot. And fluctuate is also nice. So it basically takes away this octave, plays one octave up and one octave down,
Oh, that's pretty cool. Okay.
and it leaves out this one.
Yeah, it's good. It's good for layering, I feel like.
Yes.
Nice.
Harmonic legacy isn't very um, uh, it's not used a lot. This is only harmonic legacy is more used when you use multi chords.
Hmm.
So if you have a duet, and I'll just go and use do this for the sake of demonstration. Now, if we go and set the chorus to shimmer or hum,
Okay.
you can hear the difference because it uses the. That's why I said in the beginning, you always have two waveforms, except when it's in union, it just plays the same thing, and that's why it sounds louder because of the face addition.
Hmm.
But as soon as you start using the chorus effect and then also use a duet, then it's the second voice. So everything that has like the number 2 written to it is like the one that's getting modulated.
Okay, so the one is not.
No,
Got it.
the one is just the flat one, and it will always be the flat one. It's the second note that gets modulated.
Okay, so you'd want to use harmonic only in basically this case to get it to work.
Yes.
Got it.
And this is what I use this a lot when I when I want to have like very full sounding organ chords.
Oh, for sure. For sure.
Then I would go, and which is completely weird, but I set it to viola, and I set the filter to a soft sustain.
Oh, it does sound very organy, almost like a Hammond B3 organ.
Yeah, almost.
Also, real quick,
then,
sorry, I hate to keep interrupting, but I do
No,
have
it's
to
cool.
respond to like follows and stuff. Thank you to Happy Kaiju and Sack Turk for those follows. Thank you both so much. Sorry, keep going. Sorry.
No, don't worry about it. It's your stream, man. All right, so that's basically effect. Basically speaks for itself. You can have like a light vibrato, or a heavy vibrato, or an even heavier vibrato. There is no real sustain. Stutter is also nice if you want, like, if you like gated stuff. Though I usually don't use those. If I use it, it's either for delayed vibrato or light vibrato. Sometimes strum because it's a very slight modulation, and the others I usually don't use. If you want a delay or a reverb, there is a standard reverb which is very simple. I never use it. I usually just add my own by having a basic note, a play out, and if I want to reverb to that, I just add a little bit and lower the volume on that. And you get this. Oh, it's still on stutter. And you got yourself a reverb.
Oh yeah. Analog style, and I guess it's
Analog
similar.
style. Yeah.
I guess it's similar for delay, only there would be gaps.
Yeah. You could even you could even go beyond and use 2 channels for that.
Oh, where it's like one's kind of like the shorter kind of. Yeah.
We'll use this, and then I'll do the same over here in blue because it's good visible. Let me actually go back to a standard square wave. Union, arpeggio, seamless, sustain, sharp. That's all the same, right? Oh, let's put this one. No, let's actually put it to sudden so it's nice and clear. This one needs to be higher up one. I'll just copy this pattern here. And what I'll just do is I'll move these.
Oh, so it's like filling in. Oh, okay.
Then I'll set this filter to sustain medium, lower the volume.
That's so cool. I love it. I honestly, that's actually really clever.
We lower it a little bit more. We play the tempo a little higher. Then you got your delay and reverb. Plus, if you set this to strum and put the chorus on dirty, and that's how I make my reverbs.
Nice. All right, so let's talk a little bit for like, let's say people are like, they're excited to start working with chiptune stuff, but maybe they don't have the same amount of experience as you or I or maybe some other people in terms of like writing music or writing stuff in the style of chiptune. I'm assuming that's what like the riff and all of these other advanced settings are kind of for. Like the scale, it seems pretty self-explanatory that like you could set it to be a specific scale to make a writing easier. But like, what would be, let's just say, your top 5 or top 10 tips or pieces of advice for people who want to get into writing this stuff? In no particular order, just whatever comes to your mind.
First and foremost, recreate. Sorry about that. My cat's feeding bin is like, hey, it's time for your new next batch of food. Anyway, first and foremost, recreate. Just pick some NES classics, well-known ones, particularly Dr. Wily Stage from Mega Man 2 is a very famous tune. There's very few people who haven't heard of it. Pick out your BeepBox and start recreating it and try to make it as accurately as you can as you go along. Listen to the different sounds and how they interact with each other. It's a very simple melody. It's very easy to reconstruct. I actually have it reconstructed. Let me see if I can pull it up. All the way up.
I'm surprised you don't do tiny URL for this file.
That's
Clean up on
because now I
space.
can just copy paste the entire URL, and if you use tiny URL and then you follow the link, it gets extended anyway. So now I don't have to use tiny URL every time I want to save it. Now I can just copy paste the entire URL.
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense.
I should have a BeepBox file here. Yeah, here we go. This is actually done in the original BeepBox, so we'll have a little look at that, because why not?
Oh, nice.
You can already see the whole difference in things. This is why I use the modded version.
Yeah, the updated version has a lot of extra features and it looks a bit cleaner, just a little bit.
Yep.
It's pretty much the same
But-
UI, but
Yeah, the basic interface works exactly the same way. It just has different options, different organization, but it's the same thing. That's basically all you need to do. Start recreating. Listen to your favorite tunes and try to recreate them as accurately as you can. That also helps you familiarize yourself with the way beatbox works. It'll give you a basic understanding of how songs are structured. It'll give you a basic understanding of how chiptune compositions are composed and how they are arranged. Like, I use some clever effects here because the original actually doesn't have those little trill arpeggios in the background, but I think it sounds better. So that's my little modification.
Yeah.
And that's step 2, actually, in getting better at composing chiptunes. Once you have the pieces that you really like recreated and you're happy with them, start changing things. Add notes, add voices. Expand on an existing idea. There's no shame in stealing something good and then make it your own. That's how all the masters have done it.
Exactly. What is it? No, I'm saying I was just saying this to someone the other day. It was like imitate, emulate, innovate. That's
Yes.
like the way to grow as an artist, or really in almost anything you do. It's like you find someone to just rip off, basically, even if you're just doing it to learn. Then you try and emulate what it is they were doing to do that thing, and then you innovate on that. And like you were saying with this one, like the original Mega Man song didn't have those types of trills, didn't have those types of kind of effects, and like you added those because you thought it sounded better, and that's how you differentiate from the people you are imitating and emulating. So I think that's a really good piece of advice.
And then at some point you get to the point where you're just like, I'm gonna make it my own, and that's what I did, and it sounds completely different.
Exactly, yeah. Oh, it's like a remix. Nice.
And then you get like a little triplet thing going on.
Yeah, it's almost Latin, like dance hall-y. I was sick.
And that's basically how I started using beatbox, is just recreating old NES tunes in the closest possible style, and then improvise on them. Start adding your own stuff. So you can save songs as URLs. Yes, you can. The entire URL in the bar, in the address bar, actually immediately changes whenever you change a note.
Yeah, that is the song.
Whenever you change a pattern. Yeah, it is the song. So all you need to do is copy the URL to a text file, like I did over here. I mean, they're all here.
Now you can screenshot this and steal all of our. Actually, you technically can't because some of it's off screen, but hurry, steal Arthur's music. Screenshot now. Screenshot now. No.
Whoop. Hello.
All right. Alrighty. Cool. So, what are some of those other parameters on the new version of BeepBox that we're looking at? Like, what is riff and what is muff? Like, how do those things work?
Blending basically changes how the filters work. I shook a little bit too hard. It minimized all my windows. I don't like that. Where's all the things? There's my chat. Here we go. Lol. Blending changes the way your filters work. Let's go back to this one here. Where's that little snippet that we made? And if we up the blending, you can hear them being sharper.
Okay, so it basically like it decreases the impact of all the low pass filters.
Yes.
Okay, for sure.
It also slightly changes how the volume sliders work. Sound just gets less muffled, and that's where there is a muff. That's basically a muffler.
Got it. Okay.
And this works globally, so this works on the entire song. Then you've got detune. Speaks for itself. It gives the entire full range of a half of a seminote. So we can either slide this all the way up or change your key. It's the same thing.
Okay.
Detune also slightly plays with harmonies. I found a sweet spot usually around 3/4, where I think the harmonies sound more natural than the standard equal harmonies. So it's like it plays with the with sense,
like micro tuning and stuff like that.
Yeah. So if you have like, just start writing your song, leave the detune button alone, and once you've got your entire track done, play it back, then start playing with the detune slider, and you'll find your sweet spot for your song because it's different per track.
Oh, that's cool.
Riff actually only works in harmonies because it literally rifts apart how the harmonies work, and that also works in conjunction with the chorus.
Okay.
So we have a union chorus here. So riff is not going to do anything. But if we set chorus to shimmer, so I haven't really found a use for it, but it like pulls apart all the harmonies and it gets very wonky really fast.
Interesting. I have no idea how to use that, but that sounds really interesting. I'm
pretty sure you can make some neurotonal stuff with that if you go like really low, and then again, these settings are all global, so they work on the entire track and all the instruments. So it's not you can't select that riff setting for just one particular channel, unfortunately. But yeah, that's why I haven't really found a use for it. It'll probably work if you use choruses like vibrate, which offsets the.
Oh, that basically.
You can use riff to basically resynchronize them.
That's actually okay. So
like it sounds like full fourths.
Yeah, it tames kind of the dissonance created by some of the more extreme chorus modes.
It basically lets them drift. So why they call it riff? Yeah. No clue.
Well, I mean, why they call it muff? I mean, I guess we know why they called it the muff. Anyways.
Lol. So yeah, that's this section. Panning is pretty straightforward. Chord, I already explained it. You got the arpeggio, which plays them. Let me actually change this back. It gives the old school computer beeper sound. Duet lets them play simultaneously. I'm not sure what the other ones do. Half arpeggio only works if you have 3 or more unison tones. because it continues the first and it starts arpeggioing the second and third. So if you have like you can make up to four. You can have four notes playing at the same time. If you set that to, if you have three at the same time, so the one is always played continuously, and two and three will arpeggio now. Duet basically does the same thing. Arp chord just eliminates everything after two.
Okay.
So I haven't really played around. I usually use arpeggio or duet.
Yeah, but more classic kind of sound anyways with that.
Chord used to play all three of them, but now it cuts off after the second because there's only two note polyphony.
Oh, okay, for sure.
And that's basically that's your basic tool set. That there isn't much more. There is a sample rate which you can play with. I believe 44 is the default. You can go to 48. Doesn't really do anything because if you export, it's just going to be the same. So I would just say leave it alone.
Leave it default, yeah.
It's advanced for if you really like, if you have like a 22.50K sample thing, then you could technically set this to half. But if you export it, it's going to be the same anyway. So
yeah, 48 would probably be like if you were trying, because like 48K is pretty much only used in film and TV.
High quality stuff.
Not even high quality stuff. Like it was literally like, sorry, this is actually an interesting story that I found out. They used 48K because it syncs up with 24 frames, which is the old American film rate. Like even modern films in U.S. theaters are done at 24 frames a second. Yeah, exactly. It's a SMPTE thing, OTV. Like it just completely syncs up. But even though nowadays you can have TV shows that are shot at 60 frames a second, they look really weird. Like a lot of reality TV is shot at like 30 or 60 nowadays. And that's why it's like it looks weirdly crisp in a weird way. Like especially like live, like local TV news, and they still use 48. It depends. That's TV standard, Funkmod. That's TV standard. But it's the weird thing because like 48 doesn't really sound that much better than 44.1 because it's not like we can hear, because it's like, okay, so we have 4,000 extra hertz of room for aliasing. That doesn't really do much. When you're talking about 96 or 192, yeah, that's a lot of fucking headroom. But 44 to 48, like it's just archaic stuff. I mean, it's the same reason why we still use certain things that I probably should stop talking because I'm going to upset some people. Anyways, MIDI sucks. Sorry. Keep going.
Lol. Actually, Funkmod had a question that we didn't address. Is there any anti-aliasing artifacts built in? And as far as I'm aware, no. If you want those artifacts, then by all means start playing with the sample rate and stuff like that. There's no resampling going on. It's basically just a raw waveform. So if you want to do any effects with that, export the audio as a wave and then throw it through a bit crusher or whatever. And then you can have your artifacts. There's no dithering if that's what you were talking about.
Are there any cool like scales in the scale thing, or do you just pretty much leave it on just the regular kind of 12-tone keyboard?
Basically, what the scale function does, anything except expert, it just cancels out certain seminotes. If you go to easy, for example, it'll just give you the basic C harmonics. If you go to island,
they have smiley face for major, frowny face for minor.
Yep, smiley face and frowny face. for major and minor, normal and so if you have no understanding of basic chords, this can help you set the tone for whatever scale you want to write in. But for most of us in here, we use the full scale. So just set it to expert and you can use all the things.
I'm curious, what is no dabbing?
Oh, here we go. No dabbing.
You're not allowed to dab.
Not allowed to dab. It takes out the D and takes out the A and the B.
Oh, it literally. You're no dabbing allowed. That's funny.
DAB. Monotonic is also nice. You only get C. I see what you did there.
Nice. Alrighty.
I'm gonna facepalm for that later. Right. What's next? I forgot.
I mean, it's your class. I mean, like, I guess one thing that might be interesting is why don't we take a look at like how you would do like a quick challenge, like basically a live, basically watch along of Arthur doing like a 30-minute track challenge.
We could do that. Yeah, sure.
Because then I think it'll help us start to see like what sort of thing should we be trying to do when we are doing something inside of BeepBox, because you clearly, like, you have a lot of experience with it. So
yeah, I've been playing around with the modded version. I've been demonstrating here for a little over a year now, I think. Does that make me a master of it? I'm not sure, but I can find my way around.
Yeah, I mean,
that's for sure.
Better than the rest of us, that's for sure.
Yeah.
All right, so why don't you pick the photo? Like, I would say just open. Do you have the imaginary landscape subreddit available? Because I figure we can just pick one of those.
If you throw the link in chat.
Yeah, so it's just I think it's just landscapes. There we go.
Oh, genius. Let me go that full screen. Let's see if I find a nice one. Oh, hello, Mr. Dragon. It's a little slow in loading.
Uh-oh. Yeah, there's a lot of good photos in there. You can just pick any one of those, honestly.
No, don't blocklist it, you idiot.
And then, sorry.
There we go. Now it does things. I forget sometimes I have a script block. Oh, I see Lion King. Hakuna Matata.
Oh yeah, I was about to say, Sparky, that it's 10,000 hours, not 1,000 hours, but it's also like not actually how it works. Like, you could spend 10,000 hours just literally mashing your hands against the keyboard. It's not going to teach you how to play.
No, it'll definitely get your fingers in shape, though.
Oh yeah.
Maybe not the shape you want, but. Ooh, I like this one.
All right, so which one are you doing? Do you want me to set the timer, or?
I have a timer prepared, actually.
Oh.
Get your fingers in shape.
All right.
There we go.
Oh, that's a good one. Let me.
Let me see if I can put this somewhere where it's like visible. This should stay on the foreground, right? Yeah. Okay, it does.
And I can put the picture up on the stream so people can kind of see. So give me just a moment, y'all. Now, can I do this from? No. All right. So I gotta save image. Let me just add that as a thing real quick. There we go. Now I'll put this up here. Now people can see what you're basing your thing on, and we should be good to go.
All right. I'm like having a good look, like I usually do. Like you usually say, okay, press one in chat, blah blah blah.
Yeah. Once in
Then I
chat when
click
you're ready to
I
start.
click my button and run to the bathroom. Click. My DAW is ready. Yeah, we made a joke about it, but yeah, it's easy.
So pretty much whenever you're ready to start, unless other people want to try and do their own
Kappa.
Yeah.
Yeah, if people feel like, hey, I want to do this challenge, yeah, open up your favorite DAW, get ready. I mean, I can wait a while. I'll just roll another cigarette because why not?
Yeah. I think it'd be fun if people would do the beatbox. I think I'm going to observe. And how good are you at answering questions while you're working? Because if it's all right, I was going to kind of ask you maybe things about your process if you didn't want to talk your way through it. But if that gets distracting, we can just kind of let you go. And then...
I usually I think out loud a lot of the times. So I'll probably be telling what I'm doing, what I'm thinking, if I feel like something is good or not.
Okay.
I pretty much have tunnel vision though, so we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, I get you. Don't worry. I'm sure. Worst case scenario, we can ask questions at the end.
Worst case scenario, I'll extend the timer for 10 minutes.
Jeez.
Okay. So whoever feels like getting ready, open up BeepBox or your DAW or whatever. Yeah. Let's just make this a fun community effort, because why not?
Yeah, post your thing. Do not tell us which pick you... Well, no, there's only one picture. So you don't have to tell us which pick you pick.
Yep.
Because we know.
Very interested to see if people are going to use BeepBox, what they come up with, and what kind of inspirations I've managed to awaken within people. Yeah, I choose two. I choose you. Go Sparky. Wait, that's Richie's Pikachu in the original series. Nice.
Alrighty. I think if anyone's ready, they will do it. So you should just get started whenever you're ready.
All right. 3, 2, 1, go. And that should keep running right there. All right. So usually what I start with is a bass line. I'm getting very much Ancient Ruins kind of vibes from this particular thing. So I'll just pick a channel, go over here. What kind of bass line do we want for this? Usually that's how I set my chord progression as well. We got a basic chord progression down: C, E flat, B flat, F. I think that's a nice starting point. Let's lower that an octave offset, -1. Let's make that a little bit of softer tone. Let's go with plateau, medium, lower the volume a little bit. And my favorite part is the R piece. We'll do that delay trick I explained earlier. We can do that in the same channel, but what we can also do is throw that in a secondary channel because then we can play with the instrument settings. So I'll do that. Slightly pan that to the left. You can use the plus and minus keys, by the way, to shift the entire pattern 1 octave.
So it's a lot of filling in spaces from what I'm seeing.
Mm-hmm. You're basically just drawing. We'll lower the volume on this too, and we'll pan this to the right, which is not going to be very good for you guys, but I'll post the final shortened URL in chat once we're done. So now we got the basic thing done. We'll need some chord stuff. So what I'll do is I think this is a nice intro. So I'll just copy this stuff with a lot of clicky noise. Move on to the next 4-bar section. And now we're going to do how I do my chords, which is we'll set these instruments to duet. We'll hard pan one left, hard pan the other one right. We'll set them both to a narrow pulse. No, I want organs. So we'll go for the viola. Sustain soft, sustain soft. Are they in the same octave range? Yes, they are. I want them higher. Oh, these are still, no, both sustain soft. Like if you want to hear a note playing while something else is playing, you can just click on the piano.
And it's kind of like the thing in Ableton with the headphones where you click on a note and it previews it essentially.
Yep.
Okay.
Is this what Ableton calls monitoring? Basically, it only works while you're playing though, and it only works for that channel.
Yeah, so it's
It's
similar.
how it's basically live playing and while muting what the channel is actually doing. Okay, I think we got that down pat. Let's change the instruments real quick. We'll go for a hum. with a slight strum. Right, cool. Let's go for drums. That's a lot better. Let's set the transition to seamless.
Chuck Funk. With the combination of timer and music, this reminds me of Jeopardy.
Jeopardy. Huh. Thinking music.
Oh, yeah.
Basic hi-hat pattern. Let's change that up a little. So we'll copy that into a second pattern, which basically C, number, V. Perfect.
Oh, so you try to keep your all your drums on different channels. That's smart.
Yes, because then that means you can play polyphonic. Otherwise, you'll have to, because you can only play one noise channel, one noise sound at the same time.
Right.
And I tend to use different waveforms for the different things. So I really like the deep for bass drums. So that's a seamless. Let's copy this to second. We're going to add a little sine wave to give it some more body. And I'm going to go for C because that's what we're using here. Over here. Set this to sine. So staying soft. That's too low. That sounds a lot better.
So that's a pitch bend sushi leaf.
Yep.
And it's literally creating the pitch bend at the start of a kick drum. You don't hear it's very low in frequency, so it's probably not transmitting over the Zoom client. But I'll play it on my end when we're done, and you should be able to hear everything, including the stereo image.
That's too high.
Yeah, keep it where it is. Don't worry, it'll come through when we're done. Because I can somewhat hear it on my end, so I'm sure once we listen to the final thing, it'll sound great. So you're fine.
I need a snare. Nice. Let's extend that a little bit, add a little bit of volume automation. Nice. Let's give that a little bit of a transition. we'll just go up here.
Can you do
a
the? I was
little
about to
bit
say,
reverse.
can you do a reverse? And you can.
Yep. It's important that you set the transition to seamless when you do that, because on sudden,
A little click. Yeah.
you get this little and you don't want the you want it nice and ska. Skirt.
Oh, yeah.
Please no. Let's set that to retro. Nice. That's too high. I like this. Better. Let's paste that here too. And that's what I meant with the little copy technique. I edit this one real quick so I can paste the same shape right there. So we get the same note. And okay, now it's time for the melody. So we'll just copy what we have by punching in the numbers directly. I'm not sure why I reverse ordered these.
Because you edited this. Well, you edited the first one to be the second one, kind of. But yeah.
Is that? Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
There. Okay, now we got them. Okay, now they're synced again, because otherwise my OCD is going to be.
I thought that was intentional.
No. We can just copy this entire section. No, not you. Usually I use the bottom one for. Excuse me. Usually I use the bottom noise channel for crashes, ambience, breath, whatever you want to call it. We could probably do some wind effects down there, but first I want a melody in there. I like that.
I like that you don't try and get the melody out in your head, like you get it out into the air. Like you're always like beatboxing and whistling, and I do the same thing, and I've found that always makes these challenges so much easier.
Right, let's change this into something we want to hear. There's a nice sawtooth. That's too high. D sharp. Detune slightly more.
pretty much have the idea out. And
Yep.
we got like
Now
10 minutes left.
Yeah, we want a sick echo effect. So what I do is I copy these patterns into a second channel. Basically, I'll match up the instruments. So that's going to be a sawtooth, sudden, sustained, sharp. I'll instead do a strum and a chorus set to dirty. And what I'll do then is I'll just shift all these by a quarter note. It's easy because you can like literally drag one note and it'll do, let's see, A flat, G flat. So that's A flat, G flat.
Yeah, I saw the scaling. That's pretty useful. Yeah, I like that.
That is D sharp. And now, if we lower this volume just a bit, we get a nice effect to it.
Yeah, it's not quite coming through on the stream, but I'm sure we'll hear it as soon as we get to the playback on here. I can hear it just faintly.
I'll send the final file once we're done in MP3. Okay, so that's our first section done. Then we can go for a new section. What we have here, we can just copy that. And we're going to change this up by double timing this one octave lower. No, not you. You, 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 you. Set you over here. Then we'll have to do the same thing with this. You will end up here.
It's okay, G.
Which is fine. Which is fine. That's copied. That's copied. That's copied. This one needs to go here. I think I got them all. Looks like it. We'll do the same for this one. Not sure how far I'm going to get with this, but oh, wait, no. I think I used 2 already. Yeah. So let's not use 2. Let's use 3.
Now, what's the undo button?
Z.
Z, okay. So it's
Just
very
Z.
similar to like other programs, only you don't use any modifier keys.
Yep.
Got it.
Here, here. Which one am I missing?
The
D like I missed
sharp, I think, at the very end. The E flat.
This one? No, it's here.
No, no, yeah.
Okay, I think I got them all.
Yeah, it looks like it.
Yep, got them all. That's the melody. We don't need that. We want a different chord progression though.
We've actually moved into the key of E flat in this section. It's interesting. Or no, I guess because you've already changed the key. Sorry, I missed that. For some reason, I thought we were still in C.
Nope.
Sorry.
Oh, you're good.
I thought you were doing some cool modulation key changes.
It stutters a bit because it's playing while I'm like dragging notes all around. It doesn't really like that. Now we got a little transition thing going on. We'll change this to the second instrument, retro. There, something like this. Maybe here. I think I'll actually do snare and then over here, seamless. This one should be seamless too. Yeah, there we go. And then we'll have just enough time to write a quick little second melody. And let's actually use a second instrument for that. Oh, my timer window is a little bit in the way. Couldn't go to my favorite instrument right there. Oop.
Oh, yes, that is the Arthur sync.
You can hear now that we're running out of volume, so I'll switch this to overtone, lower the volume, and it'll sound louder. You get out of my way. Now we need to send all these patterns to use the same instruments.
Oh, and this is how you're doing your little glissando down. Nice.
Yeah, blue here, 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 and then blue again, here, 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 one more, here, here. And then we can do the same thing over here. 5, 6, 7, 8. Set all those to the second instrument. And we can basically sync these up over here. Seamless. Lower the volume just a little bit more. Medium. We'll do dirty. We'll set this to, get out of my way, strum. I don't think I'll need to change the volume that much, really. I just need to pull this up, copy the stuff into place. What I need is copy the first section. Set this to the second instrument. 1, 2, 3, 4. 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. I think I'll take out the kick drum here.
Oh, the arrangement's almost done.
Arrangement is pretty much done. All we need to do is edit this part and make it the echoey bit. So that's going to go here. 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2.
You're so calm with like less than a minute left. I'm so envious.
Sometimes I start misclicking when this happens, when we slowly start running out of time, though. But for the sake of this example,
Just calm, cool, and collected.
like if it's like one note I still need to edit, then I really don't care if the timer goes off. I'll finish what I'm doing. You can call it cheating if you want.
I mean, I'm pretty sure everyone cheats in some small way with these challenges.
Time's up.
Go, Team A. Time.
Time.
Upload your tracks to the Discord.
This is a second instrument, so we don't need that first part. I have no idea if it's actually going to be sounding good. Let's do a quick check. Oh, that's perfect. Okay, cool. Export. Masterclass challenge.
And you can just
No
upload that to the
outro,
Discord
2
and I'll
loops.
play it.
Export to WAV file. There we go, Masterclass challenge.
Now the real rush begins.
Now the real rush begins, exactly, because now we go into Audacity. Let me actually open my downloads. There we go. Masterclass challenge. Effect to SEQ. Apply. It's basically a cutoff at the 30 hertz and below, and a slow roll off at 15K.
Oh,
and
just
above.
to clean up everything.
Yeah, it's
Makes
just
sense.
a slight cleanup. Let's fade out the last 10 seconds or so. Control A, effect, normalize, -1 dB. At the very intro, we're going to add 0.3 seconds of silence.
Oh, to deal with MP3 stuff. Yeah, that's smart. That's smart.
Masterclass challenge. There we go. No, we don't need any of that. Let's pull up your Discord. Who messaged me? Oh, it's just a notification of someone going live. Let's see. Music, friends. There you are.
That's a good point, Funk
challenge.
Mod. Because, like, remember, y'all, this is a free browser-based plugin, and we're about to hear how much you can do with it.
I'll just throw it in community challenges.
Yeah, sounds great. Sounds great.
Where we go, a Masterclass challenge.
Up here.
Upload.
Perfect. All right, so now we get to actually hear what Arthur just did in full quality. So,
Yep.
I
Give
have.
me
What's up?
give me 1 second. I'll disable my desktop audio and I'll open stream so I can actually listen to how it sounds like. I should have your stream open here.
Yeah. Just let me know when you're ready to start.
I have an ad playing. You guys should not be able to hear that.
Yeah, I can't hear anything.
Perfect.
All right.
Ads, nice. Because incognito window.
Oh yeah. Just let me know whenever you're on the stream.
Thanks, guys. Okay, I'm ready.
Okay, so here we go in 3, 2, 1.
I see what you did there, Sparky.
Stereo is so much better. It sounds so good. That's awesome. Hearing
Thank
that,
you, thank you, thank
hearing
you.
that in like the full stereo and everything, it sounds so much better. The kick sounds so good. Like,
Yeah, it sounds a lot better than what I thought it would be.
yeah, like it's honestly, it's so impressive because like what you did wasn't like insanely complicated. It's just a lot of little simple things stacked on top of each other. And
That's basically what chiptune is. Simple, basic waveforms, and then stack them in the right way. It's like Legos, really.
yeah, exactly. Well, why don't you, now that you have some time, why don't you start talking over like what your process was? Like we were able to kind of hear a little bit of your thought process while you were doing it, but now that you have time to kind of like go over what we all just heard, like go from, I guess, from the baseline all the way through to the final arrangement.
Yeah. So now I'm actually having the sweats.
I'll be right back. I think
now the challenge is
we
done,
can just
and
get
we
going.
heard the entire thing, and now I'm like, oh, you go do your thing. All right. I started with the baseline. Usually, what I do is I visualize a feeling that a certain picture is giving me. Do I have my chat open? Chat. Where are you? Oh, there you guys are. So I start off with a baseline to get my basic chord progression going, and from there on, I just start building things. Usually in chiptunes, you have your A section, B section, and then a bridge or turnaround, and then you can loop back. Sometimes I have more time and the creation goes a little bit smoother, but because I tried to explain, I was a little bit constricted into arranging different sections. So I just went from intro to A, B, and then back to intro. Lead. Yeah, exactly. they call a baseline because it's like what I consider the foundation, what you build things on, and especially um, when you're in a time constraint and you want to build quickly, you got to start with a basic, with a good foundation. So get your baseline. Doesn't have to be complicated. Doesn't have to be intricate. You can start like I did with a very simple baseline, um, which basically just is entire measures of a single note.
What's interesting is like we can't even hear that across Zoom. Like the
You
sub
can't hear
is
that
just
now.
completely off. But like if
Let
I
me
played
actually.
like the opening like couple seconds of your track, like we can hear it totally fine.
I can slightly hear it in the monitor. That's cool.
Yeah, like we can clearly hear it on our end there, so it's all good.
Very soft because I felt like you can see all the autumn colors in the trees in the foreground. There's a little caravan traveling towards what I perceive as an old ruined like city type thing. It's probably actually a city, and they're going because the caravan is moving there. Behind the walls is an actual city, but you can't tell that from here. So there's a sense of wonder, like what's behind that gate, you know? So that's what the arpeggios are for. It like there's this big old forest. So um, I wanted something to reflect that. Like there's all kinds of noises going on. That's why there's so many layers of the arpeggio. That's why we have three layers going on, echoing left and right. It's like the the birds and the little ambience creatures scurrying along
Hmm.
in forests like this. So um, and that immediately sets the mood. Plus, we go for a very basic major minor chord progression. Um, doesn't make it too complicated. Um, you can basically expand from there, and that's why in the second part, have I actually? Yeah, let me hook that back up, and then I can play it from here. When we add the chords, I wanted the chords to go slightly faster than the bass line goes, and you can play with chords and chord inversions, and then you get instead of uh, the full measures, you get half measures. You could even play a little bit with the timing on that by shifting depending on your situation. But in this case, you get this. There's this sense of wonder, so you don't want to go too surprising in terms of weird timings. So I went for a very flat timing to stimulate anticipation because well these people are going for that gate. It's obviously a caravan because there's camels. I see three camels or llamas, or what are they, four if you count the one like right at the gate. There's like a little extra group over there, so it must be some kind of a meeting point. Maybe it's a merchant gathering over there, maybe it's a secret merchant gathering. You don't know, we can't tell because the gate is in the way. So for the sense of wonder and to stimulate anticipation, I didn't mess with timings right here. If you wanted to create a little bit more tense atmosphere, I would play with the timings and I would like slightly pull them over here, and that creates a, just by adjusting all these by one quarter note, you get such a different feeling from the entire section.
Yeah, because it keeps hitting in that pocket.
And that creates a whole different atmosphere. Um, it's not, it's a good feeling and it works in a lot of cases, but not in the scenario that I was painting in my head. um, I call this not, I call this translating, because I see a picture and I have this feeling that it evokes, and I try to translate that feeling into sound. And that's how I approach this, from basic basic emotion to music, and try and make the music that I write to evoke the same emotion that something gives me, that something that inspires me to feel a certain way. And that's what the lead also represents. It stays mostly in scale.
What's interesting actually is with the new like syncopated kind of chord progression, like
Mhm.
the chords line up more often with the motion of the melody, and it changes the feel like quite a bit from where it was before, where like it was very rigid, where like it felt like the melody was almost playing off the chords, and now it feels like they're more unified, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Um, that's usually what I tend to do is you can this is a very exploration like setting. I feel like you want to create a sense of wonder. What's going to happen next? You want that anticipation.
Hmm.
Is It's kind of like the main theme of this picture, if I look at it, in my opinion. So in order to emphasize on that, I chose to build the melody up to a certain point and add elements as you go. Um, for me, it doesn't work if you bombard the listener with a lot of things at the same time, um, because the sense of wonder goes away. It's like, oh, it's there, boom. And with a build, you have that much less. You're gonna wonder, like, oh, what's going to come next? Um, and that's why the melody reflects that. It slowly builds up. The very very simple bass line first, chords come in, drums come in, then there's a very simple melody that follows the chord progression to slowly ease you into the 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 more melodious section that comes after that. Like, what's behind the gate? You start imagining what could be behind the gate, and that's what the second section represents. uh, Literally invoking your imagination to, oh, what's behind that gate? I kind of want to know what would I think. There's merchants and there's things. Maybe there's like a market or something. You start wondering, like, um, yeah, thinking possible scenarios, and the
Hmm.
music reflects that.
Crafting a narrative.
Could be something happy, could be something sad, and then there's the snap back to reality, which is also my looping point because we didn't have more time. Otherwise, there would be a larger bridge section with another different melody, another different structure, which loops back better towards the starting point.
Oh, for sure.
But yeah, that was my that's basically my thought process. I see a picture, I try to isolate a single emotion that the artist is trying to invoke with it. In this case, anticipation or imagination or wonder, um, is what spoke to me at first, because it looks like ruins from the outside, but you see people going towards that gate. So what's behind the gate? That feels like the main focus. So that's what I try to reflect in the music, and the ambience, the arpeggio, the simple chords is more about the environment, because you could have this same setting in a desert, but it would be much less impactful. I wouldn't have arpeggios for a desert style picture, because desert is more flat. Um, that there's not a lot hidden. There is not a lot places where sound can bounce around from. So there would be far less echoes, far less reverb.
Hmm.
Um, would be more flatter, dull tones. I actually I can pick up a tune I wrote for deserts.
Yeah, while you're doing that, one thing I am curious about is how your process differs between these challenges and when you're just writing music. Because it feels like a lot of the times your process here looks like what you would normally be doing, because you felt like maybe it's just the way that it was coming across, but you presented yourself as very relaxed during that challenge, and it felt like you were working at almost the pace you would normally. Is that how it works, or do you find yourself maybe approaching things a little bit differently when you're just sort of like sitting with BeepBox or whatever in front of you and you're just trying to come up with an idea?
It's basically the same process, albeit a bit slower. If there's no time pressure, then I usually tend to take my time, change up instruments a lot more often,
Mm-hmm.
fiddle with the controls, and fine tune things. Take my time to really get the things sounding the way I want them to.
Mm-hmm.
So I tend to lean more into sound design than I do with arranging, like I did now, arranging and composing. Um, Especially with these challenges. I feel content is more important than how it sounds. So I go for a rough draft, so to speak. And I often end up using the stuff that I make in the challenges that I participate in, and later on work them out into full tracks, just
Mm-hmm.
taking back what we created during the challenges, because it's a good feeling, and I can use the feeling that it evokes into one of the tracks that I'm making, and then I copy paste them into another section and try and pull different things together. Um, a good example is Lucky Wreath Glacier um, from my OST, which is actually a culmination of three different challenges, and I pulled them all together and unified them in one song,
Oh, that's
one
really
track.
cool. That's actually
And
really clever.
all three challenges were done on your channel.
Oh, nice. See, and I think that's actually it's interesting because a lot of what you're saying actually ties in with what I think makes a lot of the more successful challenges work, and I think it even reflects back on what we can do as composers or producers, because like it's very easy to spend a lot of time on the sound design, but when you're trying to finish an idea, the notes and the arrangement are often more important than like the specific sounds that are being used. And being able to kind of step back from that is a really, really helpful process. And I think like making chiptune music is great for that, because if you're trying to stay faithful to the chiptune sound, like, you have a couple of channels and you have like 3 to 4 waveforms to choose from, and it makes for the ability to write melodies, and create a better structure, as a forethought rather than what sometimes it feels like as an afterthought when people are trying to like figure out how to make their way as an artist. So I don't know. I think that this has been a really useful lesson, even for people who don't want to make chiptune, because I think you'll find that the more you experiment with stuff like this, the more it reflects back on whatever type of music you want to make.
Yeah, definitely.
Um,
Um, yeah, chiptune, it limits your ways in sound design in such a way that you have to be creative with your arrangement, with the way you use the waveforms available. So because it limits me so much in sound design, I don't have to worry about it. I can just focus on composing and arranging, and I think that's what makes my challenge entry so powerful, especially in terms of when time pressure, and all you sound designers out there, no mean to hate, absolutely not, but you guys tend to get hung up on a specific sound, and boom, 15 minutes wasted. Yes, you got the perfect kick drum, but now you've got only 15 minutes to arrange and to actually write a melody and do things. It's cool. You got a nice kick drum, but for the sake of the challenge, you just wasted half of your time. Maybe it's not wasted. I don't mean to say like it wasn't worth it,
What if you're
because
making
all you
hardstyle
guys
and the
make
whole
awesome.
track is the kick drum, huh?
Yeah, okay, of course, you got me there. You got me there. But it's a choice. It's a choice you make. Like, and that's what these challenges bring out. These challenges bring out what you as a music producer feel is important in a track, and sound designers will lean more towards shorter bits but very cool sound design, while composers as me tend to go for content, length, continuity, melody, more over the way it sounds when it's done. Um, Let me pull up the desert to fall back on that. God, I love this. So this is a theme I wrote for the desert. It's called Scorching Heat, The Sands of Furious. It's a theme that I'm going to use in a game I'm creating for a desert setting. There's a slight bit of echo going on, but I really wanted to feel that. Yeah, I really wanted to have that feeling of a desert mirage. Like, you look in the distance and you see the sand dunes and the shimmering of the sun in the sand. You don't really know where you're going.
Yeah.
Very monotonic. Feels like a drag.
Yeah, there's not a ton of syncopation going on. It's all very rigid, almost robotic.
Occasional cactus coming by, or tumbleweeds, whatever.
Yeah, very very sparse, deserted.
And of course, there's a slight variation in the music here and there. That's
What
just
are
to make it not boring.
Yeah, and the pink and orange, that's the melody, right? Like the
Yeah,
pitch
that's the
bends?
literally the da 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 da.
Okay, for sure.
It's literally what you're hearing, and one just goes up and down, and the other goes da 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 da. A little bit Twilight Zone kind of thing,
Oh, nice, nice.
and that evolves. I believe there's a little bit of melody going on after this. And that's basically it. Like the little bridge turnaround point, which is a slight alteration of both A and B sections, and then you can loop it back to the beginning.
Awesome. See, that's so cool. I'm gonna be like using BeepBox like all night tonight.
You should.
So I
One
guess go for it. Go for it.
Want to hear the glacier thing that was basically built on three um, different challenges?
Sure. Let's do that, and then like let's start moving towards wrapping up. Unless there's like any other big things you wanted to focus on. I feel like we've hit pretty much every point. Unless there's like something you wanted to cover specifically that we haven't yet.
No, not really. I think we covered everything: composing, practice, recreation, innovate on existing ideas. We did a challenge. according to my list, we checked everything off.
Awesome. Well, then why don't we just let's listen to this last track. You can tell us maybe like any last little tips that you might have for people who are like either getting started with BeepBox or getting started with Chiptune, like things you wish you were told when you were just getting started with this stuff. And I'm sure it's going to be different now because like when you were getting started, we didn't have half of the features of things that we have now and workstations and stuff like that. So any advice is going to be super helpful.
Just do it. I'm looking at you, baby lord.
There you go.
Just do it. Just start doing things. Hey, Julie Jane, how are you doing? You came in right at the last bit. But yeah, that's the whole thing. When you have an idea, write it out, and that's why I started using BeepBox initially, because I would get inspiration for tracks at the most inopportune times. And BeepBox is something, like I said, you can use it on your phone. It works over there. So I would just take out my phone, open up a web page, go to BeepBox, and quickly jot down the melody so that I wouldn't forget. And then I'd save the URL in a text file or in a note, and then send it or email it or text it to my PC, so I could work on it at home. And that's how it started. And then I was like, but wait, this thing can do so much more. And then I got more familiar with it, and I felt comfortable enough to do challenges with it. And the whole challenge thing, I started at WIDS with the 20-minute challenges.
Mm-hmm.
So I felt more comfortable using my sample pack, I should say sample library, because it's like, I don't know, 200-300 gigs or something of stems and things.
For sure.
So basically cut and paste work. And then I got introduced to you, and you do 30-minute challenges, which is like 10 extra minutes, and that's huge. And my first challenges at you were also done with the things, and I was like, well, this is starting to feel easy, quote unquote.
Yeah, so you wanted to
So
be
I
more
wanted to
challenging.
Yeah, I wanted to challenge myself. Like, okay, I've definitely proven I can do this now. Let's up the ante. Let's actually go from full scratch and use BeepBox. Let's make chip tunes, because I need the inspiration for my soundtrack anyway. So yeah, and this is one of the results. I called it 0 Degrees, partially dedicated to a friend of mine called Zero Meaning. And it's a culmination of different challenges that were inspired by different pictures.
We can even see the kick in the background. Nice. Manual delay trick. There's a lot of techniques in here.
And there it loops back.
Yeah, that's really
Mrs.
cool.
Ancient, how are you doing, honey?
That's really cool. I mean,
So
good stuff. Go for it.
yeah, this is based on 3 challenges. One was called Ice Fortress. It was like one of the themes was blue, I think, and there was like a very large snow landscape with a sort of city in the back, and it kind of some people saw it as a cave or a cavern. Other people saw it as like a big open snow tundra kind of thing,
Hmm.
and that's where the arpeggios and the bass line came from. The main lead came from another challenge that was also something with snow and icicles everywhere, and it was like a city inside a hole or something with ice and like people wandering through the snow.
Hmm.
Uh, yeah, and I save all the things that I do, and I was like, oh, these actually sound pretty nice. Let's see if we can work them together and turn them into sort of a snow type level thing. And this came out. Obviously, they were in different keys, so I had to like copy paste a lot of things. They were in different tempos. Um, Basically, the whole second section over here was all in half speed, so I had to like copy over the patterns and then rearrange
Retime and
all the
stuff like
notes,
that. A bunch.
redraw everything. But definitely worth it, and it turned out quite cool.
That's awesome, man. There's like I was saying while we are listening, like there's like pretty much this is a culmination of almost everything that we've talked about on the stream. Like we can see the kick drum in the background with the sine kind of pitch down thing. We can see the decay on the notes. We can see the manual delays. We can see like the pitch bend with like different types of delays for the main lead when it goes like the pitch up and down. That was really visual. Yeah, this stuff, um, the noise and just a lot of different things. Even the detune is being put into use here. So there's a lot of stuff here that was really kind of good to point out. Like I encourage people to look back over the VOD and like try and point out which things Arthur talked about that show up in this final track. I think that'd be pretty helpful. So I guess that might actually be it.
Yeah, I think we can wrap things up here.
Yeah.
Here,
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining this, Arthur. This was honestly super fun.
I very much enjoyed it, and I hope everyone learned something and I inspire people because that's what I set out to do with my music. And yeah, I was very honored to be your guest.
Yeah, of course. Everyone say thank you, Arthur, in chat. Thank you, Arthur.
You're welcome.
Alrighty. So I guess before we go, why don't you tell us a little bit about what is coming for Arthur in the next couple of months or in the year of 2020? Like, why don't you give yourself a little bit of a plug? Let me give you a shout out so everyone can make sure to follow you on Twitch because you stream sometimes. I don't know
Yes,
your schedule, but
I am currently very busy with a project because I've been hired to make another soundtrack. So you guys can look forward to that. I'm not sure if I'm allowed to open it, but I am working with people of um, uh, the Spire network to create the soundtrack for Dungeons of the Spire. Minecraft is releasing the new dungeon system soon, and that allows for a whole new slew of mini games to be played on Minecraft
oh, so
for
they're
map
so like the
makers.
Slay the Spire people.
Uh, kinda. It's like they are turning Minecraft into a dungeon RPG crawler,
Oh, okay.
and it's really neat. I've been walking around the server, and they've added all kinds of cool weapons. Um, excuse me. So there's definitely a lot going on, and I've been asked to make the soundtrack for them. So every dungeon is going to have its own music, all composed by Arthur the Last Ancient.
That's
And
so
I'm very
cool, dude.
stoked about that. So that's coming up in 2 or 3 months. Um, Of course, my album is out. Check out my Bandcamp if you want to, because that's where all the stuff is released. It's 50 tracks, 2.5 hours of pure chiptune, and 1 orchestral track. Yeah. What else have we got going on? I take audio commissions. So if you want a theme song for your channel in chiptune style, feel free to hit me up either through Discord or Twitch or Twitter, and we can arrange something. Like I said, the upcoming weeks, I'll be very busy with the Spire project, but after that, we can certainly talk.
Awesome. All right. Thank you again. I guess I will end everything now, and I will catch you later.
Yes, I think my cat wants to say bye too.
All right,
Come on,
yes.
Sophie.
Say goodbye to the cat.
Hi.
Oh, there she is.
Say bye-bye. You want to talk? So cute. All right. Thanks for having me, peeps. Have a wonderful stream. And yeah, I'll see you guys in chat.
Alrighty. Bye.
Bye.
Okay. There we go. That was fun. That was super fun. Thank you again, Arthur. I really appreciate it. All right. So now I guess I'm trying to figure out what else we're supposed to do today. Because it is currently 1 p.m. I'm scheduled to go until 3. But I'm also on one computer. I haven't actually turned on my production computer yet. So maybe we could do some challenges, but I'm not ready for challenges. We might end the stream early today. I don't know. We might. I might go run some errands. We'll see. But nonetheless, I should probably do the Quick Theory Thursday maybe. Hold on real quick. I should end the thing for YouTube. All right, so this is for the YouTube people. Thank you so much. Please make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, all that good stuff. And I'm gonna cut the video here. Okay. I have to head out. Yeah, maybe we could do